Hello everyone, and welcome to my YNR Trends channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The Young and the Restless continues to keep fans hooked with its twists, betrayals, and unexpected alliances, and the spoilers for Tuesday, September 30th, 2025, promise to deliver more drama than ever. As the Genoa city residents wrestle with their tangled relationships and ongoing power struggles, viewers are preparing themselves for a day packed with emotional confrontations, shocking confessions, and decisions that could ripple across the lives of nearly every major character. While this soap has long been known for combining romance, deception, and family intrigue, the episode set to air on this date pushes the envelope, hinting that nothing will remain the same once certain truths are exposed. The build-up has been intense, and the payoff is set to test loyalty, patience, and the strength of bonds that seemed unbreakable. One of the biggest developments in this episode circles back to Kyle Abbott, whose arrest has left the Abbott family shaken to the core. The Abbotts are no strangers to turmoil, but Kyle's situation is one that weighs especially heavy on Jack, who has always seen his son as both a strength and, at times, a reflection of his own missteps. The news that Kyle has been taken into custody not only shocks Jack but also raises a storm of questions. Was Kyle truly in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or is there more to his involvement than he's willing to admit? The spoilers hint that Jack will do everything in his power to protect his son, but with Kyle facing charges that could dramatically alter his life, even Jack's influence and resources may not be enough to pull him out unscathed. The scene is expected to focus heavily on the strain this development places on the Abbott family dynamics, particularly since Ashley and Tracy will weigh in with their own opinions about how best to handle the fallout. Meanwhile, Nate Hastings finds himself emotionally torn as Audra Charles becomes the center of yet another scandal. Viewers already know that Audra has a way of pushing boundaries, testing limits, and getting herself entangled in dangerous situations, but this time, things may have gone too far. The spoilers tease that Audra will be brutally attacked, a development that shakes Nate to his core. While Nate has tried to maintain some distance from Audra in recent months, his compassion and lingering attachment make it impossible for him to remain indifferent in the wake of her suffering. The upcoming episode is set to explore not only Nate's reaction to Audra's attack, but also how this incident pulls him back into her orbit. There's an undeniable complexity in Nate and Audra's relationship, one built on attraction, betrayal, and an undercurrent of mutual understanding. The aftermath of this attack forces Nate to confront feelings he thought he had put behind him, and it also raises questions about who would have wanted to hurt Audra so viciously. The larger question surrounding Audra's attack could shake Genoa City's balance of power. Audra has made plenty of enemies in her time, from business rivals to former lovers and allies she betrayed. Spoilers hint that suspicion will fall on multiple characters, each with their own reasons for wanting to see Audra silenced or punished. Could this be the result of her most recent business maneuverings? Or does it tie back to older grudges that are finally catching up to her? For Nate, however, the immediate concern is her recovery and what this means for his own emotional state. His distress reveals just how deeply he still cares, despite his attempts to present a detached exterior. Viewers can expect heartfelt moments between Nate and Audra as he tries to be there for her, though the underlying tension of unresolved issues between them could turn those interactions into combustible confrontations. On another front, the Newman family saga continues to unravel with its signature mix of corporate battles and personal vendettas. Victor Newman, ever the patriarch determined to hold on to his legacy, will once again find himself drawn into conflicts with his children. Spoilers suggest that Victor is pushing forward with plans that could reshape Newman Enterprises, but not everyone is on board. Nick, Victoria, and Adam have all had their fair share of clashes with their father, and the episode airing on September 30th shows that these fractures are far from healed. The episode is expected to feature confrontations where Victor's children question his judgment, accusing him of manipulating them to secure his empire's future on his terms, rather than theirs. This family strife could easily spill into other storylines, especially as alliances between the Newmans and the Abbotts remain delicate at best. Phyllis Summers also finds herself at the center of the drama. Never one to shy away from conflict or scheming, Phyllis's involvement in both the Abbott and Newman spheres continues to stir trouble. With Kyle's arrest looming large, Phyllis's protective instincts over Summer are bound to resurface, fueling more tension between her and Diane Jenkins. The Philistine feud has been simmering for years, and with Kyle's situation potentially reshaping the Abbott family dynamic, the gloves may come off in ways that leave lasting scars. Fans can expect fiery exchanges, sharp dialogue, and scenes that highlight why Phyllis and Diane remain two of the most compelling adversaries in Genoa City. The build-up to Tuesday's episode suggests that nearly every storyline is heading toward an explosive crossroads, and the sense of anticipation is palpable. Whether it's Kyle's legal woes, Nate's conflicted emotions, Audra's shocking ordeal, or Victor's unrelenting grip on his empire, viewers are guaranteed a mix of heartbreak, suspense, and simmering tension that makes The Young and the Restless the must-watch daytime drama it has always been. The spoiler buzz suggests this isn't just another episode but a pivotal turning point in multiple story arcs, laying the groundwork for battles, reconciliations, and betrayals that will dominate weeks to come. As Tuesday's episode progresses, the ripple effect of Kyle's arrest becomes even clearer. For Summer, the emotional toll is almost unbearable. She has always struggled with Kyle's impulsive choices and the constant turbulence of his life, but seeing him in legal jeopardy pushes her to the edge. Spoilers suggest that Summer will wrestle with conflicting emotions. Part of her wants to stand by him, to be the supportive partner who believes in his innocence, but another part of her feels the crushing weight of exhaustion. How many times can she put her own needs aside for the sake of Kyle's crises? This inner turmoil sets up a storyline where Summer may finally be forced to decide whether her marriage can survive the unending cycle of chaos. Her conversations with Phyllis in this episode will likely highlight her vulnerability, with Phyllis urging her daughter to put herself first, even if it means making heartbreaking choices. For Summer, this is not just about her love for Kyle but about her identity and what kind of future she wants to build. Jack, meanwhile, is expected to reach out to Christine Williams, desperate to find any legal loophole or strategy that could protect Kyle from serious consequences. Christine has been drawn into countless cases over the years, and her involvement here signals that Kyle's legal issues are far from minor. Jack's plea also brings out the softer, paternal side of his character, reminding viewers of how much he values family, even when mistakes are made. Ashley and Tracy, though, will press Jack to consider whether Kyle's troubles stem from a pattern of reckless decision-making that cannot simply be swept away. The Abbotts have always walked the line between protecting one another and confronting uncomfortable truths, and this storyline promises to test that balance in deeply emotional ways. Ashley, in particular, may not hesitate to challenge Jack's instinct to shield Kyle, pointing out that accountability could be the only way to save him in the long run. In another part of Genoa City, the fallout from Audra's brutal attack begins to ripple outward. The spoilers suggest that the scene of the attack will become a focal point for both the police investigation and speculation among the residents. Audra has long been a polarizing figure, admired for her ambition but mistrusted for her ruthless methods. As she lies recovering, the whispers about who might have been responsible grow louder. Nate, unable to ignore his instincts, begins pressing for answers, his protective nature in full display. He's determined to find out who hurt her, even if it means stepping on toes and stirring up tensions with those who would rather see Audra gone. His scenes in the hospital are expected to be some of the most emotionally charged of the episode, revealing his inner conflict between professional detachment as a doctor and the raw emotions tied to his personal history with her. Elena, Nate's former flame, will also be pulled back into his orbit through this storyline. Spoilers hint that Elena may question Nate's motives in becoming so entangled with Audra again. While she sympathizes with the fact that Audra was attacked, Elena cannot help but wonder whether Nate's involvement stems less from compassion and more from lingering feelings he has tried to bury. This creates fertile ground for tense exchanges between Elena and Nate, as old wounds reopen and unresolved questions about their past relationship resurface. Elena has always been wary of Nate's attraction to strong, complicated women who bring as much danger as they do passion, and this situation may reinforce her doubts about his ability to choose stability over chaos. Victor Newman's maneuverings also remain at the forefront of the episode. He is rumored to be pulling strings behind the scenes, perhaps even in ways that connect indirectly to Kyle's arrest. The spoilers tease that Victor may have information that could either help or hinder the Abbotts, depending on how he chooses to play his cards. Victor's relationship with Jack has always been fraught with rivalry and grudging respect, and Kyle's predicament provides another opportunity for Victor to assert dominance. Whether he offers assistance in exchange for leverage, or uses the crisis to remind the Abbotts of their vulnerabilities, Victor is poised to take advantage of the situation in true Newman fashion. His children, however, remain skeptical of his every move. Victoria, in particular, is expected to confront her father about his latest business strategies, accusing him of sacrificing family harmony for control. The dynamic between Victor and Victoria remains one of the most compelling father-daughter relationships in daytime television, and this episode is no exception. Elsewhere, Adam Newman finds himself torn between loyalty to his family and his own ambitions. Spoilers suggest he may play a role in uncovering details about Audra's attack, though his motives may not be purely altruistic. Adam has often walked the fine line between redemption and self-destruction, and his actions in this episode could set him up for another round of alienation or reconciliation with his siblings. If Adam becomes entangled in the investigation surrounding Audra, it could also reignite his tension with Nate, especially if Nate suspects Adam has more knowledge than he's letting on. The potential for Adam to insert himself into multiple storylines, the Newman power struggle, the Audra mystery, and perhaps even Kyle's situation, keeps his arc unpredictable and ripe with intrigue. The relationship between Phyllis and Diane also takes a dramatic turn in Tuesday's installment. Spoilers indicate that the two will have yet another heated confrontation, this time with Kyle's arrest serving as the spark. Phyllis, ever protective of her daughter and unafraid of speaking her mind, will place blame squarely on Diane's influence. She'll argue that Kyle's troubles can be traced back to his mother's manipulations, while Diane will fire back that Phyllis has done nothing but undermine their family stability. The war of words between these two women is expected to be sharp, emotional, and utterly unfiltered, providing the kind of classic soap opera showdown that fans love. For Kyle, watching his mother and mother-in-law tear each other apart, while his freedom hangs in the balance, will only deepen his sense of despair. By the end of the episode, viewers are likely to feel the pressure building across multiple fronts. Kyle's uncertain legal fate, Audra's recovery and the search for her attacker, Victor's latest schemes, and the ever-present Newman-Abbott rivalry are all converging into storylines that feel both deeply personal and dramatically consequential. The genius of The Young and the Restless lies in its ability to weave these threads together, making sure that no character's actions exist in isolation. Every choice reverberates through Genoa City, drawing characters closer together or pushing them further apart. On September 30th, those reverberations will be stronger than ever, setting up weeks of fallout that fans will not want to miss. The digital clock on the polished mahogany desk in the Newman Enterprises CEO office flickered to 8:01 a.m., its silent numbers heralding a day that promised to unravel the fragile seams holding Genoa City's most powerful dynasty together. A day that began not with a bang but with the tense, quiet click of the door as Victor Newman entered, his steely gaze sweeping over the room that had become the nexus of his family's war. A room that currently housed his son, Adam, who stood not behind the desk but before the floor-to-ceiling window, looking down upon the waking city as if he were already its master, a pose of such casual authority that it caused Victor's jaw to tighten almost imperceptibly. Adam turned slowly, a faint, knowing smile playing on his lips that didn't quite reach his eyes, which held a storm of their own, a mixture of triumph and deep-seated resentment, and he said, "Father, I wasn't expecting you so early, though I suppose when your empire is on the line sleep becomes a luxury." His voice a carefully modulated blend of respect and defiance, a tone he had spent years perfecting just for these moments. Victor moved further into the room, his presence seeming to suck the very oxygen from the air. His response a low, rumbling growl that betrayed none of the vulnerability his recent health scares had inflicted upon him. "I don't need reminders about the price of power, Adam. I built this company from nothing, and I will not stand by and watch you and your sister tear it apart in a petty squabble for a chair you are not yet ready to occupy," he stated, his eyes boring into Adam's, searching for a crack in the formidable armor his son had constructed. Meanwhile, across town in the opulent penthouse that had seen more betrayal than most courthouses, Victoria Newman was having a very different morning, one punctuated by the sharp, staccato rhythm of her heels on marble as she paced, a phone pressed to her ear, her voice a razor-sharp instrument of command as she spoke to her most trusted and discreet legal counsel. "I don't care what it costs, or what lines we have to blur. I want every financial transaction, every offshore account, every Shadow Corporation. My brother has so much as glanced at laid bare on my desk by the end of the week. There has to be a chink in his armor. A mistake he's made in his relentless quest to prove he's father's true heir. Her husband, Cole, watched her from the doorway of their kitchen, a cup of coffee forgotten in his hand, his expression a complex tapestry of concern and weary understanding. Having seen this single-minded focus before, a focus that always preceded a storm that left collateral damage in its wake, and he finally stepped forward, interrupting her tirade with a gentle but firm, "Vicky, you need to breathe. This constant war is eating you alive, and for what? A title? A company? We have a family, we have a life outside these corporate battles that you seem determined to win at any cost." Victoria stopped her pacing, her eyes flashing with a fire he knew all too well, a fire that had initially drawn him to her and now sometimes threatened to consume them both. "This isn't just about a title, Cole, this is about legacy, this is about ensuring that the vision my father built, the vision I have bled for, doesn't fall into the hands of a man who has spent his entire life manipulating and destroying everything he touches, including this family. And I will not apologize for fighting. With every weapon I have to protect what is rightfully mine." Back at the Newman Tower, the tension between father and son was escalating, with Victor moving to stand behind the desk, his hands gripping the back of the leather chair, a symbolic claim of territory. "Your latest power play, aligning with that weasel from McCall Unlimited, was a clever move. I'll give you that. It secured you the votes you needed on the board, but understand this, cleverness is not the same as wisdom, and you have just made an enemy of not only your sister but of me, and I am an enemy you cannot afford." Adam chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "An enemy? Is that what we are now, father? After everything? After I saved your company? After I proved my loyalty time and again? Only to be cast aside the moment Victoria snapped her fingers? I am not the enemy here. I am the salvation you're too proud to accept. I see the future of this industry. And it's not in clinging to old-world models and family traditions. It's an innovation in taking risks, in doing what you did decades ago. But you're too busy playing patriarch to remember what it takes to be a pioneer." Victor's face darkened, a thundercloud ready to break. "Do not presume to lecture me about my own company, boy. I remember every risk, every sacrifice, and I also remember that family, for all its dysfunctions, is the bedrock upon which all of this stands, and you have always treated family as a disposable commodity, a ladder to be climbed and then kicked away, and that, more than any business strategy, is why you will always be your own greatest obstacle." The words hung in the air between them, a verdict delivered, and Adam's mask of cool composure finally slipped, a raw flash of pain and fury in his eyes before he regained control, turning back to the window as if the city skyline could offer him the validation his father so steadfastly withheld. As this high-stakes familial chess game played out in the corporate suite, a different kind of drama was unfolding at the Grand Phoenix, where Chloe Mitchell was frantically searching through a mountain of paperwork on Sally's desk, her usually cheerful face etched with panic, muttering to herself about misplaced contracts and looming deadlines, her chaos a stark contrast to the serene and calculated arrival of Sally Spectra herself, who stood in the doorway, observing the scene with a mixture of amusement and concern. "Losing a battle with the paper monster, Chloe? I thought we agreed that the digital age was invented for a reason," Sally said, her voice light but her eyes sharp, taking in every detail of her friend's distress, a distress she knew was about more than just paperwork. Chloe jumped, clutching a folder to her chest as if it were a lifeline. "Sally, you're early. I was just trying to get a head start on the projections for the new fashion line launch, but the numbers from the manufacturer aren't adding up, and I can't get a hold of the production manager, and I have a terrible feeling that something is going very, very wrong." Sally moved into the room, her designer dress a splash of confident color against the neutral tones of the office, and she placed a calming hand on Chloe's shoulder. "Breathe. First of all, we've handled worse. Remember the time the entire spring collection was the wrong shade of magenta? We survived that, we'll survive this. Now tell me what your gut is telling you, because your gut is rarely wrong when it comes to logistical nightmares." Chloe took a deep, shuddering breath, her eyes wide with anxiety. "My gut is telling me that these delays aren't accidental, that someone is deliberately throwing wrenches in our gears, and I know it sounds paranoid, but the timing is too perfect. Right when we're about to make a huge splash at the International Buyers Expo, everything starts to fall apart." Sally's expression hardened, the playful glint in her eyes replaced by a flinty resolve. If someone is trying to sabotage Spectra, they picked a fight with the wrong designers. We didn't get here by playing nice, we got here by being better, smarter and more determined than anyone else. So we do what we always do, we roll up our sleeves, we find the leak, and we plug it with their reputation. Meanwhile, at the Genoa City Athletic Club, a meeting of a more intimate and treacherous nature was taking place in a secluded booth, where Kyle Abbott sat, nervously stirring a drink he hadn't tasted, his eyes darting towards the entrance every time the door opened, a man clearly waiting for a ghost from his past, a ghost who materialized in the form of Jeremy Stark, who slid into the booth opposite him with the predatory grace of a man who knew he held all the cards. "Kyle, you're looking tense," Jeremy began, his voice a silken threat, his smile not reaching his cold eyes. "I hope I didn't keep you waiting long, but then again, a man in your position probably has a lot on his mind, a lot to lose, a beautiful wife, a son, a recently reclaimed position of power at the mighty Jabot Collective. It must be a delicate balancing act." Kyle's knuckles were white where he gripped his glass. "What do you want, Stark? We had an agreement, a deal, and I held up my end. You were supposed to be out of our lives for good. So why are you back in Genoa City, and why did you demand to see me?" Jeremy leaned back, feigning a casualness that was utterly belied by the intensity of his gaze. "Agreements change, circumstances evolve. You of all people should understand that a man has to adapt to the market. And right now the market for my silence has seen a significant uptick. You see, I've come into possession of some interesting information, details about a certain transaction that facilitated your smooth return to the Jabot fold, details that I'm sure your father-in-law and the board would find absolutely fascinating." The blood drained from Kyle's face, his worst fears realized in the smug expression of the man across from him. "There is no transaction, you're bluffing, you're just trying to shake me down because you're desperate? Well, it won't work. I'm not the naive kid you manipulated before. I have a family to protect now." Stark's smile widened, a predator moving in for the kill. "Oh, I'm not bluffing, Kyle, and we both know it. And as for your family, that's precisely my point. This isn't just about you anymore, is it? This is about Summer and little Harrison and how their world would shatter if the truth came out. So here's my new proposal. You're going to ensure that a very substantial and very discreet wire transfer finds its way to an account I will provide. And in return, I will take my secrets and disappear again, but fail to do so, and I will burn your perfectly constructed life to the ground, and I will enjoy watching the flames." As Kyle reeled from this devastating ultimatum, a scene of domestic normalcy was playing out at the Abbott mansion, where Jack Abbott sat reading the newspaper, a picture of paternal contentment, a contentment that was about to be shattered by the arrival of his clearly distraught son, who entered the house looking as if he'd seen a ghost, which in a way he had. "Kyle? Son, what's wrong? You look like you've had a shock," Jack said, lowering his paper immediately, his fatherly instincts on high alert, taking in the pallor of his son's face and the tremor in his hands. Kyle struggled to compose himself, to slip back into the role of the confident, capable executive, but the facade was crumbling. It's nothing, Dad, just a stressful morning, some issues with the new marketing campaign. You know how it is, everything has to be perfect." Jack wasn't fooled, he knew his son too well, knew the difference between the stress of business and the terror of a personal crisis. "This doesn't look like marketing campaign stress, Kyle, this looks like the world is ending. Talk to me, whatever it is, we can face it together as a family, that's what we Abbotts do." But Kyle just shook his head, a desperate, trapped look in his eyes. "I can't, Dad, not yet, I need to handle this on my own. I need to fix a mistake I made a long time ago. A mistake that just came back to haunt me in a very big way." With that, he turned and hurried up the stairs, leaving a deeply worried Jack in his wake, a man who knew that the ghosts of the past were the most dangerous kind, and that his son was now squarely in the crosshairs of one. Back at Newman Enterprises, the confrontation had reached a new level of intensity, with Victor now seated in the CEO chair, a clear declaration of his reclaimed authority, while Adam stood facing him, his arms crossed, a statue of defiant pride. "So, this is how it ends? You swoop in, declare my hard-won victory null and void, and expect me to just quietly return to my corner? You underestimate me, Father, you always have. I have the board, I have the votes, and I have no intention of surrendering." Victor steepled his fingers, a king holding court. "You have the votes for now, but power is a fluid thing, Adam, it shifts like the wind, and I control the weather. By this time tomorrow I guarantee that your support on the board will have evaporated and you will be left standing alone, exposed, and you will have a choice to make. You can leave with a shred of dignity and a generous severance package, or you can be removed by security in a very public, very humiliating spectacle. The choice, as always, is yours. The threat was delivered with such cold, absolute certainty that Adam felt a chill run down his spine, for he knew his father